There comes a time in life when the roles between parents and children start to shift. You've spent decades raising them, guiding them, sacrificing for them. But then one day, you realize something has changed. Maybe they ignore your advice. Maybe they dismiss your opinions. Maybe they talk down to you. Or worse, they make you feel like a burden, and it hurts. If your children have started treating you with less respect than you deserve, you might feel frustrated, even angry. You might want to remind them of everything you've done for them, of the years you spent putting them first. But here's the truth. Getting angry won't fix it. In fact, it often makes things worse. Instead, there's a much more effective way to regain their respect, without fighting, without arguments, and without resentment. Today, I'm going to share 6 powerful shifts, simple changes in the way you respond, that can completely transform the way your children see you. Some of these might surprise you, but if you stay until the end, you'll discover how to regain your place as a respected and valued figure in their lives. Let's get started. Before we dive into solutions, let's take a moment to understand why respect fades in parent-child relationships over time. As children grow older, they naturally become more independent, and the dynamics within families begin to shift. What once felt like a close bond can sometimes turn into distance or even disregard. It might show up in subtle ways: interruptions during conversations, dismissive attitudes, or decisions made about your life without consulting you. For many parents, especially as they age, this change can feel deeply painful. You may wonder, what happened to the mutual respect we once shared? But here's something important to remember. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding. Social changes play a role too. In today's fast-paced world, traditional values like respect for elders often take a backseat to individualism and convenience. And yet, there's good news. Respect isn't gone forever. It can be rebuilt. It starts with recognizing where things went wrong and making intentional changes in how you approach these relationships. So let's explore how to shift the dynamics and regain the respect you deserve, not through confrontation or demands, but through quiet strength, dignity, and wisdom. When it comes to regaining respect from your adult children, the key lies in making intentional changes. Not in them, but in how you respond to their behavior. These 6 steps are not about confrontation or control. They're about reclaiming your dignity and inspiring respect through quiet strength. Let's explore each step together. The first step is to stop chasing their approval. Many parents, especially as they age, fall into the trap of bending over backward to please their children. You might find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, rearranging your schedule to accommodate their needs, or even staying silent when they speak down to you, all in the hope that they'll appreciate you more. But here's the truth. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect isn't earned through self-sacrifice. It's earned through self-respect. If you keep putting your feelings second, you teach them that your voice doesn't matter. And once they believe that, it's easy for them to take you for granted. I once knew a woman named Margaret, a strong and independent lady in her younger years. But as she got older, she started letting her children make all the decisions for her. She kept her opinions to herself and ignored the way they spoke down to her because she thought she was keeping the peace. But what happened? Her children stopped valuing her. They saw her as someone who would always adjust, always agree, and always stay silent. Margaret lost her voice, and with it she lost their respect. If this sounds familiar, it is time to make a change. Stop acting like you need their approval and start respecting yourself. Set boundaries. Speak your mind, even if they don't like what you have to say. Because the moment you start valuing yourself, they'll start seeing you differently. And in time, that respect will come back to you. The second step is to stop arguing and lead by example. When your children dismiss your opinions or treat you disrespectfully, your first instinct might be to argue, to remind them of everything you've done for them or demand that they listen. But let me tell you something. Arguing never works. Respect isn't won through words. It's earned through presence and action. I knew a man named Frank, a retired teacher who had spent his life leading classrooms with confidence. But at home, his grown children treated him like an afterthought, ignoring his advice, and sometimes even laughing when he tried to correct them. At first, Frank argued back, trying to prove he still deserved their respect. But the more he fought, the worse things got. Then one day, Frank made a change. He stopped chasing respect with words and instead carried himself like a man who already had it. He spoke calmly and confidently without trying to win. And slowly, his children started noticing. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their approval, but who simply commanded respect through his presence. If your children don't respect you, don't fight them for it. Show them what respect looks like by how you treat yourself. Keep your dignity intact and speak with confidence, because when you hold your ground with grace, they will feel it. And in time, they'll follow your lead. The third step is to withdraw emotional dependence on your children. As parents, it's natural to love your children deeply, but relying on them for emotional fulfillment can backfire. When they sense that you depend on them for validation or affection, it can put pressure on them, and instead of feeling closer to you, they may pull away. I once knew a woman named Helen, a kind-hearted mother who had given everything to her children. As they grew older and busier with their own lives, Helen found herself waiting by the phone for their calls, and when they didn't call, she called them instead. Often, too often, she reminded them how much she missed them and wished they would visit more. But instead of bringing them closer, it pushed them away. Then one day, Helen made a change. She stopped waiting and started focusing on herself, picking up new hobbies and building her own happiness. And something surprising happened. Her children started calling more often because they respected her independence. The lesson is simple. The less you depend on your children emotionally, the more they will value your presence. Not out of obligation, but because they genuinely admire the life you've built for yourself. The fourth step is setting boundaries and enforcing them calmly but firmly. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, are you allowing it? People, including family, will always treat you the way you allow them to treat you. I remember a man named Robert, a retired businessman whose grown children interrupted him constantly and dismissed his concerns. At first, he tolerated it because he thought staying silent would avoid conflict. But over time, he realized that every time he stayed silent, he was teaching them that their behavior was acceptable. One day, Robert changed his approach. When his son interrupted him during a conversation, Robert calmly said, "I'll continue speaking when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion outright, he replied, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect respect." Slowly, but surely his children began listening, not because he fought with them, but because he showed them that he valued himself enough to demand respect. If this sounds familiar in your own life, take action now by setting boundaries that reflect how much you value yourself. The fifth step is to stop giving without appreciation. As parents, we often give generously our time, our energy, our support, because it's in our nature to care for our children. But when that generosity is met with entitlement instead of gratitude, it begins to erode the respect they have for. Here's the hard truth. When you give to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't build love or respect, you build expectation. They stop seeing your kindness as something valuable and start seeing it as something they are entitled to. And the moment you stop giving, they don't feel grateful. They feel inconvenienced. I once knew a man named George, a father who had always been there for his children. He helped them financially whenever they needed it, rearranged his life to accommodate their schedules, and dropped everything at a moment's notice to assist them. But instead of gratitude, George was met with complaints. His children didn't say thank you. They expected more. And the worst part? When George finally needed their help, they were too busy. Then one day, George made a change. He stopped overextending himself and started saying no when he needed to. At first, his children were frustrated. They didn't understand why he wasn't bending over backward for them anymore. But over time, something shifted. They began valuing his time and appreciating his efforts because they realized that his generosity wasn't unlimited. It was a gift, not a guarantee. If you feel like your children don't respect your time or your kindness, take a step back and ask yourself, am I giving more than I should? Because when you teach people that your generosity is conditional on respect, they will start treating it that way. The sixth and final step is to build a life outside of them. One of the most powerful ways to regain your children's respect is to show them that your happiness doesn't revolve around them. As parents, it's natural to devote ourselves to our children, to make them the center of our lives. But as we get older, that dynamic shifts. If you've spent your entire life prioritizing them above all else, they may start seeing you as someone who has nothing else going on, a person whose world stops and starts with their attention. People respect those who have their own purpose, their own interests, and their own sense of fulfillment. If your children see that you rely on them for entertainment or validation, they may begin to feel suffocated, or worse, they may start seeing you as someone who has no life of their own. I knew a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s, who poured everything into her children's lives after her husband passed away. She checked in constantly, gave advice they didn't ask for, and expected them to fill the space her husband once did. But instead of drawing them closer, it pushed them away. Her calls became shorter, their visits grew less frequent, and Eleanor felt more alone than ever. Then she made a choice. She joined a book club, started traveling with friends, and volunteered at a local community center. She stopped making her children the center of her world, and something incredible happened. Her children began reaching out more often because they admired her independence and respected the life she had built for herself. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see me as someone with a full and meaningful life? Or do they see me as someone waiting around for their attention? Because when you show them that you are living, not just existing, they will start seeing you in a completely different light. Take a moment to pause and reflect on what we've discussed so far. Each of the 6 steps we've explored is not just about changing how your children see you. It's about reclaiming your own sense of self-worth and dignity. Think about your current relationship with your adult children. Are there moments where you feel overlooked or undervalued? Have you found yourself chasing their approval, tolerating disrespect, or sacrificing your own happiness for theirs? Now, imagine what could change if you applied even one of these steps. Imagine the quiet strength you'd feel when you set boundaries with calm confidence. Picture the admiration in their eyes as they see you living a full, independent life outside of them. Envision the respect that naturally grows when you stop giving without appreciation and start valuing yourself first. This isn't about blaming yourself or your children. It's about recognizing where things can improve and taking intentional steps forward. Respect begins within you. And when you show them what it means to respect yourself, they'll begin to follow your lead. So ask yourself, what step resonates most with your situation? Which one feels like the first change you can make today? Remember, this journey isn't about perfection. It's about progress. And every small step you take brings you closer to the respect and harmony you deserve in your relationships. Respect isn't something you can demand from your children. It's something you inspire through the way you carry yourself, the boundaries you set, and the life you choose to live. If your adult children have started treating you with less care, less consideration, or less respect, don't waste your energy on anger or resentment. Instead, shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval, because the less you need it, the more they'll give it. Lead by example. Because your dignity speaks louder than your words. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because the more self-sufficient you are, the more they'll value your presence. Set boundaries, because people will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving without appreciation, because when generosity is taken for granted, it loses its value. And most importantly, build a life outside of them, because people respect those who have their own purpose, their own joy, and their own sense of fulfillment. If you take these steps, something remarkable will happen. Your children will start seeing you in a different light, not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being who they are. And in time, that respect will come back to you. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Thank you for joining us today on this journey of self-discovery and transformation. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing that resonated with you today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts matter to us, and reading your comments gives us the motivation to keep creating meaningful content. If this video spoke to you and helped bring clarity or inspiration into your life, please support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with others who might need these insights. Your support helps us continue creating valuable content to inform and inspire people like you. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are worthy of respect simply by being who you are. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.